So my wife, Sarah, and I finally bought our forever home. It wasn't a mansion, but it was a cute, mid-century modern place on a quiet cul-de-sac called Willow Creek Court. The realtor mentioned an HOA, but she breezed past it. Just the standard stuff, she'd said, waving a hand. Keeps the neighborhood looking nice. Famous last words. 3 days after moving in, we were still drowning in a sea of cardboard boxes when the doorbell rang. I answered, expecting a neighbor with a casserole. Instead, I found a woman who looked like she'd been pickled in vinegar and sharpened to a point. She wore a visor, a polo shirt with a tiny embroidered logo, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hello, I'm Carol Bruckner, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association," she chirped, her voice like grating cheese. "We're so happy to have you. I'm just here for the initial compliance walkthrough." Before I could process that, she was peering past me into the house. "Oh dear, boxes in the foyer. That's a tripping hazard. I'll make a note," she scribbled on a clipboard. "And I see you haven't yet swapped out your mailbox. All mailboxes must be the approved Heritage Bronze model from our vendor list. You have 48 hours. She then handed me a binder thicker than a phone book. The covenants, conditions, and restrictions. I'd suggest you read it thoroughly. And with another brittle smile, she marched off to scrutinize my garbage cans, which I later learned were 2 inches too far from the curb. The first official letter arrived the next day. From the desk of the Willow Creek HOA Compliance Committee. Subject: Violations. Urgent action required. Code 4B. Non-compliant mailbox. Fine $100. Code 11D. Obstruction of primary entrance. Moving boxes. Fine $50. Code 18F. Garbage receptacles improperly aligned with property line. Fine $75. Total due $225. You have 7 days to remit payment and achieve compliance. Sarah was livid. "We haven't even found the coffee maker yet and we're already being fined?" I, ever the optimist, tried to be reasonable. I called the number on the letter. Carol answered. "Hi Carol, it's Alex from Willow Creek Court. Just got your letter. We're still moving in, as you saw. Any chance we can get a little grace period?" Her response was icy. "The rules don't have a moving-in clause, Mr. Evans. Compliance is compliance. I suggest you prioritize it." We caved. We paid the fines and ordered the overpriced, incredibly ugly Heritage Bronze mailbox. I thought that would be the end of it. I was so naive. The next violation was for our lawn. Not for being too long, mind you. For being the wrong shade of green. Subject: Violation. Aesthetic turf standards. Your Kentucky bluegrass blend is exhibiting a yellow-green hue inconsistent with the community's mandated deep emerald tonal palette. See attached color swatch. This is a violation of Code 7A. You are required to apply the HOA-approved Emerald Supreme fertilizer, available for purchase from our landscaping partner, within 10 days.
Fine. $150.
I kid you not. They sent a color swatch. Sarah, a landscape architect by trade, nearly had an aneurysm. This is biologically illiterate. You can't mandate a Pantone code for living grass. But the piece de resistance was the Great Gnome incident. For my daughter's 6th birthday, my mother gave her a small, smiling garden gnome she named Puddles. We placed him by a flower bed. 24 hours later, another letter. Subject: Violation. Unauthorized subterrestrial figurine. The placement of a mythical, humanoid creature statue, hereafter the gnome, is strictly prohibited under Code 15C, which forbids whimsical or non-serious exterior decor. Remove immediately.
Fine. $200.
That was the last straw. My daughter's joy was not a violation. I started my own counteroffensive. Documentation. I bought a binder I labeled the Carol Dossier. I took time-stamped photos of our lawn, our gnome, everything. I began reading the CC&R binder, not to comply, but to understand the enemy. The fines kept coming. $100 for a window screen with a small tear. $250 for my wife's non-regulation floral hanging basket. We were bleeding money. I started attending the monthly HOA meetings, which were held in the community clubhouse and felt like a dystopian shareholder meeting. Carol presided with an iron gavel, surrounded by her sycophants on the board. A group I called the Beige Berets. I tried to appeal to reason. Carol, the gnome is a child's toy. The grass is a living organism, not a carpet. Can we please apply some common sense? She peered over her glasses. Common sense is subjective, Mr. Evans. The rules are not. One night, fueled by caffeine and pure spite, I was deep in the bowels of the CC and RS. I was cross-referencing articles on HOA law and property boundaries. And then I found it. A dry, convoluted clause in the original community platting documents from 1972. It stated that the Willow Creek HOA, for the purposes of maintenance and assessment, was legally defined as comprising only the properties on the original 50 lots of the Willow Creek Addition, Phase 1. My house, 7 Willow Creek Court, was on a parcel of land that had been annexed after the original plat. The previous owner, an elderly man who'd lived here for 40 years, had simply been paying the dues without question. The HOA had just absorbed him. My heart started hammering. I pulled up the county property records. I cross-referenced the legal descriptions. It was undeniable. My property was not, and had never legally been, part of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I wasn't just a homeowner. I was the owner of a non-member property that the HOA had been illegally taxing and regulating for decades. The next day, a Saturday, Carol and her entourage were doing one of their neighborhood patrols. They descended on my driveway as I was washing my car. "Alex," Carol said, her clipboard held like a shield. "Your vehicle. That's a 2012 Honda Civic. Correct." "It is," I said, turning off the hose. "Well, Code 22F clearly states that personal vehicles over 10 years old must be parked in the garage, not the driveway. It's an eyesore. That's a $300 fine." I took a slow breath, a calm smile spreading across my face. "No, Carol, it's not." She blinked. "I beg your pardon? It's not a fine, because I'm not in your HOA." The Beige Berets gasped in unison. It was like a synchronized sport. Carol's face tightened. "Don't be absurd. Of course you are. Every house on this street is." "Nope," I said cheerfully. "Check the original platting documents from 1972. My lot, Parcel 7A, was never part of the incorporation. You've been collecting dues and issuing fines illegally for over 40 years. I'll be expecting a full refund, by the way." Her face went from pink to a satisfying shade of plum. "This is nonsense. You are bound by the covenants. You will comply, or you will face serious consequences." "I think we're done here," I said, picking up my hose. "We are not done," she shrieked. "If you refuse to acknowledge the authority of this board, I will have no choice but to involve the authorities." I shrugged. "Knock yourself out." An hour later, a police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers got out. Carol was right behind them, pointing a trembling finger at me. "That's him, officer. He's in blatant violation of our community rules and is refusing to identify himself properly." I walked out, still calm. "Afternoon, officers." One of them, a seasoned-looking cop, sighed. "Sir, we're getting a call about a dispute with the HOA?" "There's no dispute," I said calmly. "I've simply informed Ms. Bruckner that my property is not part of her organization, and therefore her rules don't apply to me." "He's lying," Carol screeched. "Ma'am, please," the other officer said. He turned to me. "Do you have any proof of this?" "I do," I said. I went inside and came back with my Carol dossier, now expanded with the plat maps and property records, all neatly highlighted. I handed it to the senior officer. He flipped through it. His partner peered over his shoulder. I saw the moment they understood. The senior officer looked from the documents to my house, to Carol's apoplectic face. He closed the binder and handed it back to me. "Ma'am," he said to Carol, his voice firm, "this appears to be a civil property matter. It's not a police issue. We can't enforce your HOA rules on a non-member." The look on Carol's face was worth every single fine. It was a beautiful, chaotic mix of fury, confusion, and utter deflation. The cops left, giving me a subtle nod as they went. But Carol wasn't finished. She sent one final, glorious threat. Subject: notice of lien and intent to foreclose. Due to your outstanding fines, $2,850, and refusal to pay mandatory HOA dues, a lien has been placed on your property. Foreclosure proceedings will commence in 30 days. She had doubled down on stupid. She was trying to foreclose on a house she had no legal claim to. It was time for the nuclear option. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to break the system. I discovered that the HOA, as a legal entity, owned the community clubhouse, the pool, and the manicured green space at the neighborhood entrance, the common areas. And they were in significant debt from a recent clubhouse renovation, a project Carol had championed. Using a significant chunk of our savings and a surprisingly easy online auction process facilitated by the county for tax-delinquent properties, I did something drastic. The next HOA meeting was packed. Carol was at the head of the table, preparing to no doubt spin a tale about the anarchist at 7 Willow Creek Court. I walked in late and took a seat in the back. Well, Carol sneered. Look who decided to join us. Have you come to pay your debts? Not exactly, Carol, I said, standing up. I walked to the front of the room and placed my briefcase on the table. I'm here to discuss the future of this organization. You see, you've been so busy micromanaging the shade of my grass that you failed to manage your own finances. The HOA is delinquent on its property taxes for the common areas. Murmurs filled the room. That's a lie, Carol shouted. Is it? I asked. I pulled out a stack of documents and began handing them to the board members. I have here the county tax records. And I also have the deeds, freshly filed this afternoon. I looked Carol dead in the eye, my voice calm and clear. The HOA failed to pay the taxes. The properties went to a public auction. And I bought them. All of them. I let the silence hang for a perfect 3 seconds. So, while you were trying to illegally foreclose on my home, I have legally foreclosed on you. As of 4 p.m. today, I am the legal owner of the Willow Creek Clubhouse, the pool, and the entrance green. I am, for all intents and purposes, your new landlord. The room exploded. Carol looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Her face was a mask of horror. One of the beige berets actually fainted. The fallout was immediate and glorious. Carol Bruckner was ousted as president by a unanimous vote of the panicked board that very night. The lien against my property was voided. The board, now terrified, agreed to my terms. All fines levied against my property were refunded, with interest. The HOA would formally recognize the non-member status of my lot. The CC and RS would be rewritten by a new, sane committee on which I agreed to sit, to focus on actual health and safety, not aesthetic tyranny. Puddles the Gnome was granted a permanent, retroactive exemption. I leased the common areas back to the HOA for $1 a year, on the condition that the rules were reformed. The deep emerald grass mandate was the first to go. Carol sold her house and moved away a month later. Rumor has it she joined a condo association with even stricter rules. I hope she enjoys it. As for me, I still live at 7 Willow Creek Court. My lawn is a healthy, slightly yellowish green. My 2012 Civic sits proudly in my driveway. And Puddles the Gnome stands guard by my flower bed. A small, smiling monument to the day a petty tyrant learned that you should always read the fine print before you pick a fight with a calm man with a binder.